what's up YouTube? Welcome to today's video, and this is a pretty sad video, especially if you're a huge fan of PoE like I am. But this video I'm going to be doing is about the current state of the game, and we're going to watch a little video right here, and this is from Empyrean's channel, and just watch it. So this is from 3.18 Sentinel League, and look at all those items that drop. Obviously this is with the crazy Sentinel with Pandemonium. So it's probably a little bit unrealistic, but just look how many items are dropping. Everything is raining from the sky.
Wait, what? This conversion system is fully compatible with your item rarity
and then
bonuses, as well as the drop bonuses from all other Arch Nemesis mods. Going forward,
so basically Chris is saying that MF is going to be viable.
Get your magic find characters ready.
Get your magic find characters ready, right? And then look at this, 3.19 alpha. Absolutely nothing. No loot is dropping. It's actually crazy, right? Can't even believe it, honestly. He just has to laugh. But basically, you would think that the loot is bugged or they messed something up. And Chris actually responded on the Path of Exile website saying that pretty much nothing is really wrong with the game. So we're going to go over each one of these things that Chris says, because I do think that this is actually a pretty critical juncture for this game. And I do think that this is a horrible trend for the game, and it's pretty much going to slowly kill off the game that we love if we don't actually give them any feedback. Well, they do have a lot of feedback, but everything they wrote here pretty much is saying that nothing is wrong with the game currently how it is, and they're going to do some really weird solutions that's not going to change anything at all. So we're going to go over it. And we're going to go over what I actually think about the current state of the game. And I do think I have a pretty unique perspective, seeing as I am probably one of the first people to farm a Mage Blood, and I also play SSF Hardcore in the Gauntlet, and I usually do pretty well. So I have a very wide perspective of the game, coming from a softcore juicer side, someone who tries to make mirror items, and someone who also enjoys the competition of just SSF Hardcore. So let's see what they have actually done to this game. So first off, I do think a lot of these problems are amplified because the leak mechanic is so bad. A lot of people don't understand the leak mechanic is how you get a lot of your small currency, whether it be Arch Nemesis, whether it be Scourge in the past, or Expedition, or even last league, Sentinels dropped a lot of currency with the currency Sentinels. So Lake of Kalandra League is absolutely the worst pile of trash I think I've ever seen while playing. It feels completely unrewarding for the time investment. It feels like this is going to be impossible to fix regardless of how many rewards they actually end up adding. So they did say that they're going to increase the rewards from both league and non-league encounters throughout the lake, particularly at higher map levels and higher difficulties. Well, this is like completely messed up, because I actually watched a clip of Jung. He was actually doing a metamorph reward part in the highest difficulty of 10 or 12 in the lake, and it dropped 0 catalysts, it dropped 2 rares, and a bunch of like magic items, right? So there's no rewards dropping. The lakes are actually pretty difficult. They take a while to complete, and it just feels like you're wasting a bunch of your time. Now the tablet is a completely other thing altogether, in that you have to interact with it in the map, and when you interact with it in the map, you're a lot of times getting swarmed by enemies, or you're dying to some ground degen on the ground because GGG refuses to allow you to pause the game for some reason. So all around, the Lake of Kalandra just feels like a rushed league that was not tested, where they intentionally left out a bunch of quality of life. Doing the Lake of Kalandra is literally throwing your currency away in terms of opportunity cost. Doing the Lake of Kalandra feels like you're literally playing standard. Like, this league is literally standard league. It's actually crazy that you have to do so many tablets to finish your lake, and the tablets have no mobs attached to it at all. And most importantly, the lake does not scale with your Atlas passive trees. You cannot really juice the lake up, so it's just always going to be a waste of your time. And I don't think that these reward increases will do much to change it, unless it's actually some crazy value. But judging by how they've been approaching the league so far, I am very skeptical of the Lake of Kalandra's longevity. So next up we have Harvest, and Harvest, you would think that they're going to nerf the cost of the crafts, or they're going to make more life force drop. So basically, Harvest feels awful even in high tier maps. I think I did one Harvest early game. One plot gave me 20 life force total. I couldn't even buy one reforge to make an item. And Harvest used to give like 15 reforges in one plot, and now you can't even afford one reforge. That's how bad it is early game. And removal of certain crafts, like reforge key prefix and suffix, or reforge attacks more likely, or reforge fizz more likely, has pretty much set crafting back to the Stone Age. And this is something we're going to watch over here. And this is what Ben, who is the best player probably in PoE, and this is what he has to say.
Acquiring gear went from creating.
So let me turn up the volume a little bit so everyone can hear exactly what is going on in crafting. And this is someone who knows exactly how to craft an SSF, who's played SSF and is a huge proponent of the game.
A meticulous plan for every single item, and then enacting that plan with very high determinism of all the gear that I could ever want. And now, instead, I have 4 different methods of pulling a lever on a slot machine. One ROG, where you're just like, yeah, change suffixes, yeah, change prefixes, and maybe it's good, maybe it's not. There's no incremental progress of upgrading items.
No incremental progress.
And suffix. Those crafts have to be in the game, or they have to be in the game in some other form as an orb, and they need to be in the game now, not in 320 or 321, or like, as long as those aren't in the game, there is no end game like crafting for me, basically.
You hear that? He knows exactly what is wrong with the game. There is no endgame crafting. There is no mirror item making without reforged key prefix and suffix, and you might be wondering why. Eventually, you will fill up the prefixes and suffixes on the item, and then you're going to have to annul. And what that means is that you're going to lose the item altogether. So crafting has been set back into the Stone Age, and it's turned into this gambling clown fiesta. And most importantly, they haven't even changed the cost of some of the crafts. Like, some of the crafts are actually absurd. You have to do over like 80 harvests in your maps until you can afford one of the higher tier crafts, which is just absolutely crazy. And this is a change to Harvest that drastically impacts every single player. It impacts the people just starting out trying to roll some gear. It impacts the high-end crafters. It impacts the medium-end crafters. It pretty much ruins the game altogether. And it is a change that feels rushed. It doesn't feel like they tested it out well. I don't think they actually considered the implications of how this actually changes crafting. I don't know how good they are actually at crafting, but it does feel like a super, super rushed change. And I don't even agree with the fact that the life force is so scarce that it makes it so that you can barely even craft your gear anymore. And if you look at what Chris actually said was the original intention of Harvest, was they wanted you to incrementally craft your gear and be able to spam crafts on it. Nowadays, you're not going to be spamming anything. The best way to craft is probably using essences now and fossils, and it's pretty much just a complete RNG shit show that feels completely unrewarding to interact with. So next up, I actually probably saved the best for last, and this is the general item drops. As you saw early on, you saw Imperium was doing a fully juiced map, and nothing was coming out of the Alva Temple when you compared it to last league. Now right here, I think this is the leader of the MF Academy, which is a Discord for people magic finding, and this is a character with 207% quant legacy gear on standard with like 500% rarity. And this is what he got from a juiced Crimson Temple with currency rewards, Gilded Scarabs, and GG Sexton. So this is the best geared character. So it would be like the current league's best character, but doubled or tripled in terms of effectiveness. And he ran this on standard, and this is what he got. He is probably losing boatloads of money by running these maps. And it's pretty much because GGG introduced a massive historic bonus. They removed this massive historic bonus to item quantity and rarity for league-specific monsters. And this was never in the patch notes when Chris said, get your Magic Find character ready. He never mentioned this. Like, this is a huge, huge deal. And if you ever do any juice maps, you know that most of the map is pretty much League-specific monsters, whether it is Harbinger, whether it is Legion, whether it is Abyss or Breach. So pretty much they just removed this bonus and they replaced it with 2 to 3x loot. Or I don't even know what that even means. But basically, nothing is ever going to be dropping in juice maps. Now, if current juice mapping is a complete money loss for groups, unless you get super, super lucky, that just means the solo is completely unsustainable. You know, the strat I did last league with the Crimson Temple and trying to farm the strong boxes, you're pretty much just going to be losing money unless you get an apothecary. So that brings us to the question of why even upgrade your character and invest into maps at all if you just always end up losing money. And that is pretty much the crux of the problem, is that there is no incentive to make your character better. There is no incentive to look forward to a new crafting method or a new currency money making method or a new farming method that you could access because you have a better character, because all you're going to be accessing is a new way to lose your money, right? And this change extends to just the base game where people are actually running out of AUX and Vol Orbs to progress their Atlas. That's how crazy it is. People actually cannot finish their Atlas while they're already in T13s because they don't have any Vol Orbs. They don't have any AUX. Like if you look at your currency stash, all I have is a bunch of Chaos Orbs because people doing Chaos recipe or people paying me in Chaos, and I pretty much have none of the smaller currency besides maybe fusings because at least 6 sockets are still dropping. So general item drops, absolutely awful. I don't really know what they're actually thinking about doing with nerfing this, because this is just causing the game to feel like you removed all of the chase and you added nothing to make up for it. So you might be wondering, all of these changes, they must know, like after I say all of these things, you must be wondering, GGG is surely going to change everything, right? They're definitely going to look at the feedback and actually change it all. But what I actually pulled from is their post that they actually posted last night about what they're working on. This post where they addressed everything and pretty much is saying it is working how it is intended has pretty much spelled the end of the league and the end of PoE as we know it. I don't really know. I mean, of course, they can always go back and change some of these things. But right now, with the way they're describing it, it makes it sound like they're being stubborn and they don't actually think anything is wrong. Maybe there's actually a bug in the code and they applied the unique nerf to the global drops. But as of now, you want to hear what the solutions are that they have in store for us. They're going to adjust the system that skews weapon and armor bases towards higher level ones so that players find items that are relevant to their level more often. So not going to address the currency. So I don't really know what this actually accomplishes. So next up, they're going to make the act bosses or map bosses drop fewer items, but substantially better rarities. So you'll be able to find more uniques potentially for map bosses. Again, nothing about the global drops or the scaling of quant for the actual map. And Harvest, not really going to change anything, but make Life Force drop a little bit more. So maybe you can do 1 Reforge per plot instead of 0.2. And Lake of Kalandra, this is a big unknown. At this point, most people don't even really care that much about the lake, and they're more concerned with the state of the base game at this point in time. And this is not really just like an elitist perspective. This is everyone's perspective. This is what happened to Empyrean. He's quitting the league.
Get your magic find characters ready.
Look at this.
Yes. Fucking God.
Well done.
No.
Well done.
They're actually quitting the league.
Alright, I'm logging out. I am not being a number on this game anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
refuse.
fuck this, fuck this.
So he's quitting. Steel Mage is saying the game is trash. Every single content creator I know. Grimbro is saying it's a fever dream from the past, how good the game used to be. And then we see posts like this, hearing that the loot nerf was intentional has killed my hope for this game. The best players in the world like Ben and I'm Exile are hating this league. They don't like the way the crafting is. Every single content creator is calling them out. And people are saying that Harvest is still nerfed. And this is actually the biggest thing that frustrates me the most right here. Why is GGG so ashamed of their vision that they need to hide the most impactful changes? Why do they feel the need to pretty much label everything as a rework? And the rework is just them removing the mod altogether. or removing the league mechanic as we know it and completely destroying it. There's actually a clip of someone doing the Tainted Orb of Fusings, and it is a 10% chance, roughly, to go from a 5-link to 6-link, or go from a 1-socket to 2-socket, or a 1-link to a 2-link. And they keep trying to label everything as a rework and try to hype it up. But in the end, every single thing they reworked this league, Arch Nemesis, Harvest, and beyond, has been a complete disaster that has drastically changed the game for the worse. And also, it feels awful for players to find out that things are nerfed and never mentioned in the patch notes. Like, this whole thing where they said that they were going to remove a massive historic bonus to item quality and a rarity. Like, this thing should definitely be in the patch notes. Like, you are wasting so many people's time who decide to take time off work and do a 6-player magic finding party, and then they find out that the magic finding is completely bricked. And not only do they find out it's bricked, they find out that it is intentional and not actually a bug. It's just astounding, the lack of presence of mind to actually inform people of the changes they're going to do. And they also hid most of the harvest changes so that people would not be up in arms before the league launch. And it is very, very apparent why they do this. They do this because they're trying to sell their mystery box. So this is actually a really bad look. After you put this whole thing shitting on the entire game, you're trying to tell me to buy a mystery box. And not only are you telling me to buy a mystery box, you're telling me that the Kirax Vault Pass will be available for purchase in a few days. So at this point in time, if you want them to probably change the game back to how it used to be, or maybe take a less drastic approach, the best way is to definitely to vote with your wallet. Don't buy any MTX, and definitely don't buy the Kirax Vault Pass, because that thing is actually terrible value. And there is a huge lack of understanding, I believe, in that players do not actually like bricking their items while crafting. No one likes having to annul their item because they can't fix it and then losing the mod and destroying the item altogether. People like incremental progress. There's also is a huge lack of understanding that people like investing into maps and actually dropping items. It is fun to be able to use scarabs and roll your map and be able to do a juice map and actually have it be profitable. We're not even asking for profit, like a crazy amount of profit. We're just asking for any sort of profit. And this next part is kind of like a broken record, but it is sad how Arch Nemesis was released in an overtuned state yet again. Every single league, they repeat the same cycle, release an untested league, test it out for 1 to 2 weeks with the player base, and then do changes. However, in this case, it seems like they think that nothing really needs to be changed with the loot drops. Nothing needs to be changed with harvest and crafting. And the only thing they're changing is Arch Nemesis and Essence monsters. And they're slightly rewarding the Lake of Kalandra. And then potentially making Lake of Kalandra actually a playable league mechanic. But overall, thanks for watching, everyone. This is the current state of the game. No one's really happy about it. Yet they actually refuse to take any of the feedback and make meaningful changes that will make people want to play the game again. But I hope you find more Mirrors, Exalts, and Mage Bloods than me, and see you next time. Bye.